Something that I find very common is when an individual, keeps talking about, trying to love somebody who won't love them back. Well, at the same time, you kind of maybe had experienced, the way how they kind of treated you well in that process of kind of overlooking you and ignoring your friendship or, certain types of values that you also bring. That tends to happen a lot, when people become fixated on a particular person. And it's not always love that they're seeking, it's more so approval, seeking approval from a person that does not have the feelings, for them anymore. And, from what I find is that people tend to get into those types of cycles where they can't let go of a past relationship. And so they start comparing every single person to that individual they were in a relationship with. And so when they do that comparison, with the next people that come in line, it's kind of very non conducive because while they're comparing, there's a lot of things and lessons that, will end up being a part of the cycle again because they're not learning how to let the other person go. So, a lot of times when people have not let go of a past relationship before moving on, they'll find that there's a lot of similarities in the next relationships that develop due to them not letting go of the past. So, I tend to see a lot of the consistent patterns, throughout people's relationships. And there'll be some differences here and there, but they'll keep attracting that type of, relationship that doesn't really seem to work out because they're still stuck on the person from their past and seeking that validation, that acceptance, that they are worthy of love or that they are capable of putting in effort, needing to have the acknowledgement, of them, changing themselves and bettering themselves or trying to make things work out, in a more civil way. So, that's up to the person to decide if they want to do that or not. But, you can't make a person accept you. You just have to learn how to accept yourself really because the acceptance truth of it all comes from you, how you're able to accept this situation as it is, how it occurred, accept this person as no longer, being in love with you anymore. You have to learn how to take that as a lesson learned, and just move forward from that situation onto a new one with a new perspective that, hey, I learned things about myself through this. I learned about other people. You're trying to apply yourself the best way you can, with giving them love, and sending them on their way, in their own direction, whatever they need to do in their life path, meanwhile, you got yours. And so, usually, some life paths they get stagnant and stuck because, they're still trying to gain a bit of like a detachment from the life they shared with another person. So, yeah, those types of, reoccurrence in the relationships will happen again until they learn that lesson that yes, you really do need to let go. Otherwise, you're taking that baggage of that past relationship into the new one, the next one, and the next, and the next. It's kind of like an undoing of yourself. The next relationship will kind of break things down a little bit further. The next one will break you down a little bit even more, so it comes to the point where you're starting to see that a lot of relationships you're getting in, they're never really working out for the best. It's always like one break, one break, one break, after another, to the point to where you're like, man, I don't have faith in relationships anymore. But really, it's kind of breaking you down to see and get to the core of who you are as a person. because your outlook on all those relationships, your outlook, if it's in a negative state, it's going to tell you what you need to work on. Because logically, all relations don't happen that way. There's something in your mind that's creating this reality for yourself. It's the disbelief in yourself, lack of faith in yourself, lack of love for yourself. You see what I mean? And you're seeking it from other people. You're seeking the approval to have a life that's worthy of happiness, to feel that happiness, because you need something tangible from another person to prove it. So you're kind of like breaking your back to prove to other people that you are lovable, that you are capable, that you are able to be acceptable by them. But at the end of the day, it's not their life, it's yours. It's your life, it's your whole perspective on how you see your whole situation. Like, no matter how much negativity that occurred, from any type of relationship, it's up to you to change your perspective on how you see that. You got to see past your pain into the heart of yourself, your soul. Where is it? You got to see past the soul of the person that you were with. What created them to become this way? Is it all fully their fault? Perhaps it isn't up to you to fix. Maybe that's why the relationship had to fail in the first place, because they needed to work on themselves too, just as you do. Maybe you got into the relationship for the wrong reasons. So we can't always be mad at the other person or mad at ourselves, because there's a whole wider range of things of how relationships affect things outside of ourselves, especially if you got children. Maybe you're only brought together to bring children into the world, and those children, based on the way how you both raised them, are going to come and create something more profound in this world that's going to help everybody out, because you are giving the children the experience of knowing two different types of lives while creating their own, seeing different perspectives, because I've picked this up from, observing the life I had myself, so I would not know these things, if I had not been, I guess I could say, fortunate to experience certain things in life that can be a bit challenging and difficult, for a young person, to see your parents go through certain things, the situations. And it's because of that I'm able to, understand myself more. Yeah, sometimes our parents, they, do things, they make mistakes, and sometimes that fucks us up in the head, and we're like feeling our way through oblivion in life, trying to learn and trying to, not make mistakes ourselves, but we still manage to do that. We still manage to kind of copy our parents' pattern, of how they relate to people, how they believe, how they think, until we find out that, hey, this way isn't working for me. Maybe that's not all what life is about. Maybe there's more, because I'm starting to go this way and see my own perspective and see and sense things in my own way, ways that my own parents could not see. So it's like, we all of us, we tend to get into relationships based on what we're taught about them, from our parents. My parents were together, because back then it was a different time. Back then you weren't supposed to disrespect your elders. You had to do everything they said. It would have been different if, my dad and mom didn't have parents there to tell them you need to do right. You need to take responsibility. So It's different back then. And those types of relationships, they're a lot harder today, because they're always having this mindset of that time, where two people needed to be together in order to ensure the survival, of everything, assets, things that the couple create together, the family, all of that. So a lot of people stayed together back then, up to now, and even people that really didn't want to be together, they were kind of forced to. So a lot of times that ego gets in the way of like, well, we gone through everything in life and we built this life. We got so much resting on it and we can't throw it all away. Because we've built up so much for ourselves. We built up all this money. We built up this house, this dream, this everything. We achieved all these things together. So what's the point in walking away, and throwing it to waste? That's kind of like ego talking, you know, because all those types of things in a relationship, they're always able to be restored, whether you're with somebody or on your own. But usually back then, people, who were of the older generations, it was more of a team effort to create those things. And, where it was more of like a codependency, because back then the men did all the work, the women stayed at home, took care of the children. It was a different time back then. Back then women didn't really have that many rights too. So, those types of views, a lot of our elders and our fathers and mothers, they grew up teaching that to us. But nowadays you got women who are able to go and be on their own, be more independent. Men, they're kind of more venturing out, first before they get involved with other people. So it's different time now. And I think a lot of times too we forget that sometimes we cling just like our parents did, to the ego. We've built all this stuff, so we have to sacrifice our happiness, so we have to stay together and in this relationship that, really, if you look at it, the relationship really isn't serving you. There's still arguments, you're still not on the same page, you guys are going to be two different people, but you're still together for the sake of the kids. That's also teaching your kids that it's okay to have a relationship that's based on an authenticity, you know. But that was more like how our parents were back then. It's a lot of ego, um, not wanting to give up or give in, uh, or lose things because of what was built, within the relationship. It's more so like a focus on things, like how am I gonna survive without, this income now that we're gonna split apart? And what about the finances? What about who owns what? What about the kids? What about us both finding our own apartment and own place to live, and our own vehicles and stuff we don't share anymore? How am I gonna get the money for that? Yeah, that's the tough part, but you got to understand that those things can always be restored. Those are the easiest things that can be restored just through work and having a bit of like a extended safety net, places where you can stay with friends or family until you get yourself back up on your feet, so that's very important. But, when you're still clinging to that type of life, trying to work together to create some type of sustainability between you and the other person, it's kind of like you're not allowing that relationship to be let go of, and we're not able to let go. How can you expect to try to find love within other people? Because other people, they're going to sense it. They're going to sense that you had not let go. They're going to sense a lot of things, or you can even attract people that are like the same type of theme of the past relationship that you're trying to overcome. So that this is why they say after you get out of a relationship, you gotta at least take like a year or so. If you've been together for a long time, probably gonna take like a few years. Just to be by yourself, because usually when you're in a relationship, you're having to live for the other person or do things for the other person. You kind of lose yourself in that. You lose your identity, you lose your individuality when you're with another person. You get lost in that. And the reality of it is that relationships are two people, two different people, two different lives. You guys both do two different things. You're involved in other stuff. You got your life of your own before you got together. And when you come together, there's some similarities you have and share in common, and those are the things you share. But you're still two individuals with two different paths. You only share certain things in common, whether it's like sharing children together, raising them together, building a business together, those types of things. Those were for a reason, within your past to learn, about certain things, you know, um, from each other, skills, yeah, life skills and all that whole nine. But like at the end of the day, you're still an individual. And when you're an individual, you have to understand that you have to be responsible for your own self love instead of seeking approval that it's okay for you to walk away from the relationship and go find yourself, go be who you are, go, venture out of your comfort zone that you got so used to within that relationship. Because usually before you get in a relationship, you're more daring, you're more able to go out and do things. But when a relationship comes in, there's boundaries involved. There's a lot, that is negotiated, you know. So yeah, it's really difficult. I know for some people, I understand. I've been there. I had to go through that process myself, and yeah, I had to go through it several times because there are certain things that I wasn't aware of, within myself. So, I cannot be angry or upset at the relationships or situationships. I never had a boyfriend really. It's more like a situationship. Um, there's something like there that helped me grow, like learning about myself, that I do have value, that I'm able to open myself up, to somebody. So that was a good thing. I was able to be around these guys who were able to see that within me. And I couldn't see that, because I had gone through a lot of abuse. So, they got me to open up and be more vulnerable and be myself, you know. So, yeah, that's a good thing. And I guess for myself, I taught them the lesson that, you have to be certain of what you want. You have to know yourself. You have to understand what love really means to you and what you're willing to do to protect that love too. So a lot of these men, they weren't ready like for something um that was, I guess, outside of what they normally got involved in, the relationships that constantly failed. So when there came a person like myself who was really someone that they could probably settle down with, they got scared because they knew in the past that they had made so many mistakes. And they were kind of like comparing me to their past girlfriends who, were jealous, always upset, always quick to judge, quick to be angry. But I was never like that. I was like, what do you want? What I was asking them questions that nobody ever asked them in a relationship. You know, what do you want for you? And a lot of them, they couldn't answer that. They were afraid, you know, afraid to hurt me too. So they wouldn't, be honest with that. It was a bit uncomfortable for them. But for myself, it's like, as long as you're honest with me, yeah, it's gonna hurt, but like, I'd rather you be honest, you know, because I'll understand and let you go your own way. But at the same time, I guess they probably didn't really want to fully say because they didn't want me to leave, but I think that's the thing that scared them is because I was a little bit more assertive. I knew what I wanted. I knew, um, well, it's not so much a want or need that I have because, I love myself already, but it's like I knew the requirements of, what would establish a more stable relationship, and it would be my energy kind of as like a reflection of, what would be the requirement. So for them to meet me on that same energy level and resonate to that, they felt like they would fail. So that's just them, not having the confidence or self esteem, so they needed more work and developing the self love. And when you're when you're around people who are more know more about who they are and what they're creating, know what they're creating in life, know like the consequences of what they're creating. They can be intimidating, and I know that's what some guys pick up from me. But I'm not controlling. I'm not an intimidating type of person. I'm just like I'm more relaxed but more certain, and I go with the flow of things. So I think that kind of scares guys because they don't know like what direction I'll go or how I'll react to things because I don't know, it's just easier for me to be free to do whatever I want because yeah, it's just it's something. But I tend to attract guys that kind of have a bit of a trouble, you know, um, being confident in who they are. I don't take a guy's masculinity away at all. I'm very feminine. Um, so it's just I don't know, it's strange. Um, because they do attract really like masculine guys. They're really assertive, but yeah, it's just like deep underneath all of it. There's a level of confidence that they lack. So it's more like they're running on ego mainly, and the ego is something to be very careful for. Um, and that I think that's what happens to a lot of these guys. They get caught in the ego of wanting to seek acceptance, and even when they're with the right woman, they'll still try to fulfill that ego and try to see if there's more out there. So sometimes they'll go and try to cheat or, go with other women. And, I've experienced guys like that too. So, that's their thing. That's their issue they have with themselves. I don't need to do that. I don't feel the need to do that. For one thing, I'm asexual too. So, I don't, when I see guys, I don't think of things in a sexual way. When I look at men, it's different. I have to connect with them emotionally and spiritually and mentally first before I develop like a physical attraction to them. So it's kind of like seeing the soul first before, everything else falls into place. So yeah, but it's like, yeah, I noticed there's a lot of ego with that and a lot of indecisiveness. I always attract guys who are already in a relationship or, they're kind of in between. They don't know if they're going to go back to their ex or what. I attract guys who are like that all the time, and that's usually because, I kind of serve as a bit of a, yeah, like a bit of a lesson, or like a mediator, to kind of help them get on a path where they can start, thinking of things like this. So it ends up not really being like a romantic thing. It's more like just what I would call, I don't know, it just always feels like I end up being more of a mentor, than a romantic interest, because it's like I end up teaching them something, or they'll ask me things, about relationships and everything. But I'm fine with it, I'm okay. Before I used to get pretty upset, guys telling me stuff, like they like me after all these years, but they're still dating somebody, or they say, "Oh, but I'm dating this person now," and or, "Oh, I'm gonna be getting married," and like it's like, okay, you picked like the worst time to tell me this. You could have told me when you were single, but you didn't. And yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know why they do that. I don't know if that's the same thing, the issue, seeking approval, before moving forward, or if that's like a safety net and they want my approval first, and if I say no, then it don't hurt as much because they have somebody to fall back on. I don't know what that is. It's just well, it probably is fear. People have so much fear of rejection. Me, I don't have that. I've been through the ringer, so my feelings don't get hurt. It's just more like, okay, just, yeah, it's not that hard to let go. For me, it's just, I just became very routine. To where I think it kind of scares some guys that it's kind of easy for me to do that. Um, I do get hurt though. I do get hurt like everybody else, but it's just more of like I have a sense of, things that are realistic and things that probably would serve me better, and I can kind of see things in a more broader scale of how it had to work out that way, you know. Um but yeah, that's just some of my input on things about this, and yeah, I just feel like you have to really watch out for that, seeking approval from people, cuz like if you really wanted love, you won't be seeking their approval. You'll be trying to find the love within yourself, and that's the only approval you need to move forward and accept the life that you want to create from here on out, so um but yeah, I just thought I'd share some of these words with you guys. I don't know if anybody would like to hear it or needed it, or just putting it out there for you guys. If you have any thoughts or whatever, you guys can always hit me up on stuff. I know it's been a while since I posted any videos of like guidance, spiritual guidance, relationship advice and stuff, you know. So, yeah. I hope you guys, take a lot of this, whatever resonates with you, and apply it in the best way, because my intentions here are just to, be there and try to get a bit of an understanding. And some things may be very true and it may suck, but like I had to look at that myself. I wouldn't know these things unless I had to see it within myself too. So it's just kind of a process that we go through. And I know that sometimes having somebody there who's already gone through it and understands the emotions, and comes out okay, you kind of see that, they are okay, they're doing fine. It helps to see that. It gives you a little bit of hope for yourself, and not to be so hard on yourself with how things are going within your relationships. It takes practice, it takes time, it takes, effort into yourself to try to learn how to love yourself more and create that, for your own life. because it's your life, your creation, your mindset, your spirit, everything. You have to work on that for yourself. Nobody can fix that for you. Okay, that being said, you guys, peace out. I'm gonna chill for now and I'll be back later to share some more stuff.